All right, so welcome everybody to our 7th class of futural speech. So it's impressive to think that we're already on our 7th week. So yeah, welcome to our next class. So the few things we have on our to-do list today is, first of all, we'll have to do attendance, then comes our lesson, I'll do a demonstration, and then we have a practice session. Just as kind of a little something that I'm going to change is kind of the rules. So basically, last time, like all the other times, we have basically people, I just say, who wants to volunteer to go first, right? But then some people said that they weren't getting enough chances because they weren't quick enough to kind of volunteer. So this time I'm kind of changing it up. The practice classes will still stay the same, but for this time, I'm gonna go down the list. So first, like this, and then, so I'll just go down the list, and I'll ask you guys if you want to go. So for example, if the list was person A, person B, person C, I'll ask person A, do you want to go first today? Then if person A says no, I'll ask second person, do you want to go first today? If he says yes, then I'll move on to the next person, person C, do you want to go second today? And yes or no. So I'm getting complaints to turn off chat. Reasonable. Okay, so that's kind of how we're gonna go about it today. I'll be the first class, the first class for implementing this, I'll go down the student IDs. So first I'll ask Ethan L, then I'll ask James, then I'll ask Evan, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's kind of just like our kind of preamble, but today again we're talking about.
I didn't hear you.
Evan, can you hear me, or is it?
I can hear you perfectly.
No, before I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, okay. We're just changing the kind of the.
My volume is at 10, and I can still hear you perfectly.
Okay, so we just talked a little bit about like the ordering system. So we're just gonna go down the list, and I'll ask one by one. So that's basically that. However, now we can get on to our actual lesson today, which is going to be about impromptu skills. So basically, what we have here is some tidbits, as we saw last time. So today we're going to go over audience interaction. Now, a lot of people think that audience interaction might be kind of a smaller thing, but it's actually extremely crucial for you to stand out to the audience, okay? And when we stand out to the audience, that's how you win in a competition. And in real life purposes, it's also how you can catch the audience interest, make sure that they're listening, and also kind of impact them heavily, okay? So I'll just turn on my video for the lesson because I have received requests for that. So basically what we want to do here is we're just going to talk about audience interaction, how we can interact in those ways, and like how we can basically catch the audience's attention. Next classes, we're going to go over how to tell a good story and differences between debate and speech. And then next, we're going to try to go over being memorable and contest format. Okay, so that's basically, well, like kind of our lesson plans for the next few classes. Hopefully it kind of makes sense to you all. And I guess we can just go on to the first lesson on how to use audience interaction. And for a question in chat for FIBA, yes, I am planning to be the founder of FIBA. Okay, so let's go over the first lesson on audience interaction. This is less of a lesson, like this first slide, but it's more like something more of an organizational type of thing. So we have one type of audience interaction called spoken interaction. So this is like going to be the audience interaction on the surface, basically you asking them questions and stuff like that. So asking rhetorical questions, theoretical examples, those are both spoken interaction. And then we have the second category, which is emotional interaction. So you can interact with the audience on a physical spoken level, and we can also kind of interact with the audience on a more deeper emotional level. Okay, so emotional interaction kind of be like using tone, sympathy, and stories. It can also be using impact and audience control. So don't worry if you guys don't really understand what these things are yet, but we'll go over them in the lesson because we're here for the sake of learning. So that's kind of just an overview of what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk a little bit about spoken interaction, okay? So the first thing, like the most obvious one, is asking rhetorical questions. So we are most used to rhetorical questions by having it as a hook at the start of our speech, but it can also be very useful throughout our speeches. So the first thing is, how do we do a very good rhetorical question? So one way to do it is to actually ask the audience questions, okay? So a lot of us will phrase it, rhetorical questions, as asking us to ourselves, which isn't actually impactful as asking the audience questions. So basically, some people might say, what is the difference between A and B? That can be a rhetorical question, but it's not as good as, ladies and gentlemen, what do we think are the differences between A and B? So that's one type of rhetorical question. And notice how rhetorical question in a speech sense differs from kind of the rhetorical question in day-to-day basis, right? Like a rhetorical question in a day-to-day basis would be like, are you crazy? Or something like, are you crazy? What do you think you're doing? Something like that. But in a speech sense, it can go much more differently. It can ask intriguing or shallow questions, which we'll ask. So a rhetorical question in a speech sense either have very obvious answers, such as the one we use on a day-to-day basis, or very not obvious answers. So this is kind of the main difference between us using rhetorical questions on a day-to-day basis versus us kind of using rhetorical questions in speech. So, for example, I think last time I had a rhetorical question at the start, right? And this rhetorical question was not obvious at first. And if I give an kind of more of a example on what a not obvious rhetorical question would be, it would be like, ladies and gentlemen, we all have intuitions on success in our lives. But when we truly ask ourselves, what truly defines our success in life? So that would be a question with a not obvious answer. So the goal of our not obvious answer for a rhetorical question is to get the audience to think, okay? And the obvious answer and the rhetorical question with very obvious answers is mainly just to get the audience's attention. Okay, so it should be a deep question that requires a deep answer, or a quick question with a quick answer. So when we say a quick question, it can be answered with yes or no. It can be answered with like a simple sentence. But a deep question will have to use a lot of inquiry and a lot of that digging around in your emotions and your logic. So that's another difference between like the obvious answers and the not obvious answers for rhetorical questions. Okay, so what are the benefits of rhetorical questions? This image is in the way of the bee. So one big benefit of rhetorical questions are that they engage, and they engage really well, right? So if you physically ask the audience a question, of course they're going to be more inclined to think about the question than just like a random statement that you throw out. Another one will be kickstarting. Kickstarting is basically, it's good for hooks. It's very good for different kind of things to catch their attention. So engaging might be something that's very interesting, but kickstarting is something that's shocking, right? When we shock people with a question, when we shock somebody with a fact. Now, some of us may not know really how to shock people with questions. And the key to that is to add more things. To add basically some back story or some back information. So that's why I would recommend you guys to kind of combine hooks. Combine perhaps a shocking example or and a question together. Combine a shocking story and a question together. And it works really well because it gives them something to think about, and it will make your story more memorable throughout your speech. Okay, another benefit of rhetorical questions is about emphasis, okay? So emphasis is there for people to kind of know what you're saying, right? So if we think about what emphasis really is, we'll think about, so if I want you guys to define emphasis, you might define it as making people know that this is important. And if we kind of look at rhetorical questions, we can see that it's almost exactly used for this purpose. So in our speeches, if we have something like education is education in classrooms effective, okay? That can emphasize the core of your speech about education in classrooms. So it's very good at emphasizing things. If you want to make something that you said stick, ask a rhetorical question. Okay, rhetorical questions allows for deep analysis. Okay, so another one, but this one is mainly for very not obvious answers. It really lets the audience think about it more, right? If you ask what's the difference between courage and bravery, they'll start to think, right? Because if you just say that, did you know that courage is different from bravery? They'll just take your word for it. I'm like, sure, nice. But if you ask them, they'll start to weigh it against one another. What is courage? What is bravery? And they'll start to look for a deeper kind of meaning, and they'll use their brain more to kind of answer the question themselves. So that's kind of what allows them for deeper analysis. And a good pathway for core and thesis. So this kind of goes along with the emphasis thing. So again, back to the education example, is education in classrooms very effective? So that can be your core, education in classrooms. That might be your core or thesis. So it's a good pathway for it. And it's very persuading, last of all. So a question that is very obvious can be very persuading. So a very obvious answer is, for example, if you want to say that education in classrooms is bad, you can ask, do you want our school children to be stuck in classrooms all day following orders, or out there in the world exploring and feeling for themselves? So that would be a very obvious question, and that can be very persuading at times, as we saw in that little example. And one great example I saw perhaps a few months back for a speech competition was, the topic was courage, right? And the topic was taken very differently by different people, but there was this one person who kind of used kind of used like a rhetorical question when he was describing his relationship with his parents. So I think it was like a deeper kind of topic about their parents' divorce. They got very emotional. I think I talked to you about this around last time. She said, is courage the path we take to slay a dragon, or the path we take to counter our deepest fears, or something like that? So that can be very persuading, and it kind of embodies all of these benefits. So it's very engaging. It's like, what is it? Is courage a path to slay a dragon, or is courage allowing yourself to face your biggest fears? For kickstarting, this wasn't used as a hook, but it can be a good hook if it was used so. Emphasis. Her core was that courage is not bravery. Courage is something else about facing your own personal fears. It allows for good, deep analysis. This asks the audience, like, what is the difference between bravery and courage? And as we just said, the core, and it's very persuading. And last of all, I want to talk to you about evoking emotion. So basically we saw two pathways, and we can see, along with a kind of a story, it can be very evocative of emotions. Okay, so now is spoken interaction. So another spoken interaction thing we can do is theoretical examples. Now I trust that all of you guys already know what theoretical examples are, right? Situational examples, group A or group B. If you were in this situation, what would you do? Theoretical examples. That's what they are. So we already know how to do it, but the question is, how do we do them very good? How do we do them extremely well? So the answer to that is, we're just going to give you a bit of tips, is to always make it situational. And a good example here is that some people have the habit of comparing group A and group B. That is good. Like, who will do better, class A or class B? But if you make it situational, you can say, if you were the teacher, which class A or class B, do you imagine excelling? So when we get theoretical examples more situational, you're always putting the audience at the heart of it. You're always kind of asking the audience for their situational input. So it's just that much more interacting. So try to make it interesting and not something everybody already knows about. So a lot of people have the habit of saying, imagine class A never does his homework, always hates learning, and class B is like A-grade students. Who will you imagine excelling? Well, of course it's going to be the people who always are the top grade. So sure, that's good, but it can be more interesting, right? So we can say something like this. Using the same example, you can say, instead of that, if you were to teach a class, would you rather give a test to a class who hates tests, or a test to people who love tests? So that would not only make it more situational, but it's the same question basically, but it seems more inspiring and kind of more deep than just asking like this very obvious question. But something that I left out is that sometimes as we solve the rhetorical questions, we can see that it's also a good tool for persuading if you do make it very obvious, okay? So if it's like, obviously this will happen, you can rephrase it with like a very obvious theoretical example. So obvious theoretical examples do have their uses, but they're just not as useful as a very exciting and very intuitive theoretical example. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the benefits. So this is how to do a good theoretical example. So the benefits is that theoretical examples are quite logical. So theoretical examples will make people start thinking, and they will mostly make the audience think about logic. They'll inquisitive themselves, why? Like why, and what is this, what is that, and then like, yeah, that's the benefits. One of the big benefits is that it's very logical. Another one is that it can be fascinating if you're using the one that's not obvious. So it can be very, very fascinating. So another word for non-obvious theoretical examples are called thought experiments, right? So thought experiments. There's a very logical thought experiment that you can do. There's this YouTube channel called Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. I think most of you know about it. And in their vaccine video, they gave us a extremely good thought experiment. I'll just be using them as an example. So they said that if we took 1 million children in a city on the same medical level today, and we vaccinate all of them, what will happen? So they kind of weighed the different effects of not vaccinating versus vaccinating, and that was a wonderful example of a thought experiment. If you guys want to check it out by yourselves, I'll leave it in the chat because it's not very. It's a strange name because I think it's German. Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. Okay, if you guys want to take a look at it. Yes, it is German. Thanks for confirming. So yes, it can be very fascinating. I just wanted to give that example of a good, logical, theoretical example. And it was very fascinating if you want to check it out for yourself. Okay, it can be very, very persuasive. So back to the Kurzgesagt example, we know about the anti-vax community, right? And Kurzgesagt's video, using that mind experiment, I feel like it would be very persuasive towards the anti-vax to kind of stop holding on to their wrong beliefs that anti-vax is bad. I mean, that vaccinations are bad, because it weighed the facts, it weighed the differences between vaccinating and not vaccinating, and that was very persuasive. And it allows for deep analysis because it forces them to think, weighing against each other, and it's good for inspiring. So it's good for inspiring, and it forces the audience to think. These two are kind of interrelated, because when we force the audience to think, it allows for deep analysis and inspiration. So that's kind of basically the spoken interaction with this. So it forces the audience to think, and it's very good for inspiring, because when they do think about it, it kind of gets them to weigh the differences, to see whether or not it is, see whether or not something is better, or just to see your to see your theoretical example on a deeper level. So that's basically that. And I also just want to highlight something. So I just talked about how interesting theoretical examples are better, and look how much things only depend on interesting theoretical examples. Forcing audience to think, that's only very interesting theoretical examples can do that. Inspiring, only interesting theoretical examples can do that. Deep analysis, only you get the picture. Very persuasive, yes. So yeah, we see that having an interesting theoretical example is very good. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about emotional interaction, right? So, what is emotional interaction? The first thing we can do with emotional interaction is using tone, sympathy, and stories. So this we're not really going to cover today. We're going to cover it next week because it kind of goes along with stories. and sympathy and tone. So we're kind of going to go cover that next week. So stay tuned. Okay, another way we can use emotional interaction is impact, okay? Impact is a huge way we can interact with the audience. So what is impact, and how do we really use impact? So impact is the so what, right? Is children learning in classrooms effective? No, it isn't. So what? So what? Why should we care? That's kind of the deal with impact. It can all be summarized with like the so what question. Imagine your audience keep on asking you so what. So what if they don't learn well in classroom? It's still education. So what if they don't learn well in education in classrooms? It's not my problem. So that's the so what part, and that's basically encapsulates something on why should the audience care. Why should the audience care about your speech? Why should it care about your core? So you want to talk about why it would affect the audience, okay? So one thing that we can do is, like for a very obvious one, we can take the climate change for an example. So one way we can do climate change as a impactful way of exampling is basically like, for example, this is something with no impact. If we cut down trees, climate change will become bigger. And if you imagine that the audience has no prior knowledge, they'll just say, so what? Why should we care that climate change is becoming bigger? You have to imagine them as having no previous knowledge. And then you have to say...
Because of the United States.
Sorry, what was that?
I said that I think that climate change might be on the United States.
Climate change is everywhere because there's global warming and stuff like that. But if you think about it, yeah, sure, the United States can be quite a big contributor of climate change. So, yes, Lucas, that's one way of kind of bringing impact, that climate change is in the United States or in Canada. But it's not the best way, because just saying like a big broad country isn't as powerful as saying as giving them the audience a big example. So yes, Lucas, that's a good way of bringing impact, but I'll give you something even bigger. If we cut down trees, not only will your family not have the resources to have everything you have, your wooden tables, gone. Your papers, gone. Your everything that's made of wood is gone. If we accelerate climate change, look, your family will have to suffer pollution. Your family might have to go out wearing masks, not because of coronavirus, but because of pollution in the air. So that's kind of one piece of impact. It brings it further, and we can see why it's an emotional interaction, because it interacts and sympathizes the audience with their own personal life. So bring it to a personal level. So here's another example. Education is good. So that's a statement, but it doesn't have much impact. So what? Education is good, sure. But if we bring it to more of a sympathetic or personal level, imagine a boy in a third world country with a passion for science that, if brought out by education, can cure cancer. So perhaps the audience knows perhaps a family member or a person who has cancer. And if we give this impact, it's like bigger. It's a much better kind of, it's interacting with them more on an emotional level. Okay, so basically what I want to take it away from it is to make it emotional, make it personal. And if you don't want to, if it's emotional, you can make it personal and it'll be so much more powerful. Okay, so now the benefits of emotional interaction, of impact. So one benefit is power. you're more likely to remember that boy in the third world country than just remembering the statement education is good. So it brings power and effect into your speech. Emotion. So it gives you that emotion that you want. So notice the difference between education is good versus that boy. Notice the difference between climate change is bad versus that family impact example. So that's one part, which is emotion. Another is action. We can use emotional interaction for lots and lots of action. So we can say something along the lines of, imagine a boy in the third world country with a passion for science, if brought up by education, can cure cancer. And then we can further on say, we may know a person who has suffered cancer, and we want cancer to be fixed. So ladies and gentlemen, let us all bring education. Let's bring education to everybody, with everybody, so that we can fix this problem. So that can kind of make people want to act a bit more. Yes. Engaging. So, using these emotional examples are extremely engaging, as with all emotional interactions. Okay, another form of emotional interaction will be, okay, so audience control. So, before we jump right into this, I'll just ask everybody, does anybody have any questions? Because I went over a lot today, so if you have any questions, please tell me, ask me any.
I have a question.
Yes, James?
For audience control, I don't think the audience need to control, because they could just mute their mic and it's already controlled.
Well, we're gonna talk a bit this about more of a speech standpoint instead of just like a Zoom kind of audience control thing. This is, we'll get to this a little bit later and you'll see. Okay, so a lot of, okay, so we have requests to go back to the next.
Please go back to the last slide for a
Yes,
second.
okay, yes, terrific. Thank you guys for taking notes if you guys are, because this is quite a lot to take in, and it's going to be a pain to remember by yourself. So taking notes or having screenshots is a wonderful way to kind of keep track of all this information. So I'll just give you a bit of time to do that. I myself,
Andy, could you like put it like go back, because I need to take a screenshot.
you mean the slide even before this?
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully you guys are finished with this. I'll have to go back a little bit. Okay, here. In the meanwhile, I'll kind of start preparing my my student list.
And also like the emotional one now, because I'll need to do that one also.
Okay, yes. Okay, I'll give
By
you
the
the
way, for the practicing, can I go first?
remember, right at the start of our presentation, we kind of talked about a new kind of system. So, yeah. So, no volunteering upright. I'll just ask down the list. So I'll just stay muted for a while, because I have a little bit of business.
Like the slide to the next one.
Okay, for the next slide or the previous slide?
No, the next.
Okay, this one. Okay, so a lot of people want to take screenshots on all the different slides, which is amazing because, of course, taking notes, excellent. So I'll just kind of get on with this slide for a little bit. Yeah, and I'll just leave you to it. Okay, I'll assume that people are done this slide now. Yes, so we have a request to go to slide 2. So I believe it was very further back. It was kind of, whoopsie. So was it this one? Yes.
I don't really want this one. I want like the ones that are like that have ton of stuff, so that like the ton of stuff I can't remember.
Okay. So we'll have this one. We'll have this one. Okay, just tell me which slide that you want.
Yeah, maybe the one before this one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this one. Okay.
Okay. I'll assume that that's enough time for you guys to kind of look back at that slide. Yes, this slide is there. If you want to take screenshots. Here.
Why aren't we continuing class?
Because people want to take notes. So.
Why can't they do it after class?
Because then we won't really have the slides, and perhaps when the video comes out, they won't have time to look at it. So yes, here. Whoops. So basically that's kind of the slides. We don't want to see this audience control right now. Hopefully you guys took very good notes. And yeah, we'll basically start with audience control again. All right, so I'll just get things a little bit ready for now. So basically, I just want to say that if you guys want to take notes, I recommend taking screenshots because it's a bit quicker. But anyways, I'll just continue sharing my screen. Oopsie, the problem's still there. Oops, technical issues again. So I have to unshare and probably refresh this page again. So yeah, sorry for the little kind of technical issues. Oops, it's still that. I'll try reloading again. Okay, hold on. We're just having a little bit of a technical issue here. It was the thing at the start where the slides was huge, I think.
Maybe like just rejoin or something.
We wasted 10 minutes of class already.
We didn't waste it.
I like call it waste.
We just used it up.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, hopefully this will work. All right, so yes, that was emotional interaction. Again, taking notes is not, again, a waste of time. It's actually very useful for kind of getting stuff down. But yeah, just kind of keep that in mind.
Not the notes about the thing that you had the.
Okay. Anyways, I guess we'll just start with audience control again. So for audience control, again, some of us might not know what really is audience control and really how to do it. So what audience control is, it's giving the audience a part in the speech. So it's more of audience participation, but that's very similar with audience interaction. So I just worded it with audience control. So it's giving the audience a part, not only in your speech, but in events, okay? So what I mean by this is that like giving your audience a role in speech is by like asking them questions and stuff. But giving them a control of events is like basically climate change. You have control over this situation. You can stop climate change right now if you do blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of audience control in that kind of standpoint. Next, it's part of it is similar to Kairos, but it's still kind of different because basically part of it's part similar to Kairos because it can be very good with action and all of that. It's very compatible. Basically, it's like if you have an event that you want the audience to kind of take part of, you can use audience control over it, but it can also kind of give it a part similar like Kairos. So that's basically what.
I have a question. Is it
yes.
like call to action or something like that?
So Kairos kind of embodies call to action, but audience is kind of like a broader spectrum.
Oh, okay.
And we'll kind of get through that right there. Okay. So, like, Kairos will be to kind of call them to action, but audience control will be like that, except on a more personal level. So you're going to ask them if you believe something. If you believe that children need a good education, do this, versus just let's advocate for children's education. If you are a type of person who it's connecting on them with a more deeper level, it's more personal. If you are a type of person like that, they'll relate to it heavily, and you can kind of make this a broad spectrum where almost everybody falls into that category. If you are a person who, believes that climate change needs to be stopped, so that can be very broad. If you're a person who values security in their house, that's a broad spectrum. So hopefully you kind of get like what audience control is. It's kind of asking the audience to almost identify themselves and then like specifically applying something to them. And it will give the audience a sense of control, like by almost thinking like the speaker is making a speech specifically for them, because if you believe that, and it happens that they do believe that, then it will be like the speaker made a speech specifically for them, which is very kind of that part where it gives the audience a sense of more control over your speech. All right. So what are the benefits of audience control? So the benefits is that it's very engaging. So if you are a person, if you believe that, if you are a person who, and you happen to fall in that category, you'll want to listen in because it's specifically applying to you. And if you don't listen in, you might miss something important. So it's very engaging to the audience. It's very deep because you're kind of being very specific, and when you're being specific, you become deeper. Like if you believe that, and you're going to focus on a specific value. If you're a type of person who, you're going to focus on more of that type of person. Action, yes, as we saw, it's very similar to Kairos, similar on how we can use it to kind of get people to take action. And last of all, we have participation. Allows the audience to almost participate their beliefs and values inside your speech. So this is my demonstration topic, which is mistakes.
Andy, can you go back to the slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. My topic will be mistakes, and I'll be kind of doing my speech on that topic. So I'll convert the video, my video, to a wider lens. Okay. Okay, there we go. So now you can see hand gestures and all that. And I will be standing for this session. Okay, so hopefully we got that the topic down. So basically what we're gonna do here is that I'll give my demonstration and just like a little refresher, we'll kind of just go down the list. All right, so
Andy, I think your
yes.
camera's off.
Oh yes, okay, I'll fix that. Might just because I turned on the wide lens, maybe automatically shut it off. All right, so I'll be standing this time because I might get too used to sitting down, and the real tournaments are actually just standing up. Whoops, it's a little bit
Andy, can you
too
turn off
up,
your
too down,
background,
yes.
like flashing and stuff?
Like the virtual background is kind of flashy, yes. So that's basically like a more of a technical issue, but yeah, I guess I'll just sit down for this time. So I guess I'll just sit down for this time because yes, the virtual background is very flashy. It's not very good. I'll turn back on the HD. Yes, okay, I'll have to lower it a little bit. And I guess I'll just still use wide lens then. Okay, so I'll just look at my little notes at my speech, and I'll exit this presentation to kind of go see, whoops, this little timer. I'll zoom in for you guys because it might appear smaller. And I guess I'll start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I once had a friend named Carl, and he was at the top in science. He was the best at science, and nobody could dispute that. And he was so good that many of the teachers kept on complimenting him. People respected him. They called him a genius. However, one day, maybe because he wasn't prepared, he absolutely failed a test. Now, what happened next was extremely cruciating. He took a big blow to his ego. He thought that he wasn't very smart anymore, so he tried less and less. And over time, he became from one of the best students to one of the worst in science. Ladies and gentlemen, how did a star student become one of the worst ones? How can we stop and even reverse this effect? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andy, and today my topic is mistakes. Let's look at what caused Carl to plummet this far. We can see that Carl really wanted to maintain his state of popularity and his state of being so smart. However, that shouldn't be the real goal. What should be the real goal is learning in the first place. Carl had a big ego. He thought he was the best. He thought that he will be the best forever. And when that one little mistake happened to take him down a notch, that was a big blow to their ego, and that was a big blow emotionally to him. Carl let his emotions take over him. He didn't use common sense. He let emotion overwhelm him, and he cared less and less. He treated a tiny small mistake that could be rectified into a huge failure that determined the rest of his life. Carl used all of this. This is what caused Carl to become a star student to becoming one of the worst. Another great example of this is when we go to school, we always have this one kid in gym who, when he plays a sport and loses, he always blames something. Perhaps if he's playing basketball and he fails a shot, he would say, "Oh, I'm just wearing the not good clothes. Oh, the hoop is too broken. Oh, the air is too hot. Oh, I didn't train today." He keeps on blaming things because he has a big ego. When he tries to maintain their status, he comes off as rude and self-centric. And when they do make those mistakes internally, they care less and less, they become less and less comfortable. This is what causes a star student to become a worst student. And the effect of this can be seen as a vicious cycle. When they take this little small mistake as a huge failure, they have a loss of confidence. Loss of self-confidence leads to a loss in capability. A loss of capability leads to a loss in happiness. A loss in happiness leads to a loss in optimism, which leads to a loss of care. They become apathetic. And when they lose care, they lose self-confidence, and the whole cycle starts again. It's a vicious thing that will drive the best student to become the worst. That is the effect of this. So how can we mitigate this disastrous effect? How can we even reverse it? The key lies in the word growth. Albert Einstein once said, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new." We grow up with the sense of making mistakes is bad. Maybe it is. But if we apply a growth mindset, taking growth at its center, we can learn from mistakes and we can make mistakes help us. Thomas Edison, in fact, failed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times before he made the light bulb. He failed, and every time it got better and better. It got better because of the mistakes. So, ladies and gentlemen, mistakes can be rectified. Don't get saddened by them. A mistake isn't a failure. It's whatever you want it to be. Thank you. So that's my speech, perfectly on time. So that's basically my demonstration. I want you guys to kind of see a few things inside. So basically, we have theoretical examples there, like the vicious cycle that can count as more of a kind of theoretical example. We have a kind of audience control there. We have, just things. Hopefully you can see what I applied there, because we're running out of time and we need this time for everybody else to get their topics. So I will present this. Again, this technical issue. You know what? I'll just leave it as over here. So here are the topics I have for you guys today. And I guess we'll just apply our new system. So the first on our list for today, Ethan, do you want to go first today? Ethan L.
Okay.
Okay, yes, I'll have Ethan L go first. James, do you want to go second today?
I have a question. So next class, could you go from bottom to top?
Yes, that's what we're doing next time. So everybody kind of gets a fair chance.
Can we just follow the order? Isn't that more fair?
Right now we're following the order, but like next class we'll go from bottom up. So the people who didn't speak last time will go.
I think like if you follow the order, it's like easier, isn't it?
Yeah, but then Ethan will have I'll ask him, do you want to go first every time? Which
No, like I mean like you like ask 5 person this time, and you ask the next 5.
Yeah, okay, sure. I guess we can do that. So it will ask 5 people if they want to go, and if, like, for example, 3 of the 5 people don't want to go, 2 people can volunteer.
I have a question.
Yes?
So next class is number 20 and then 19, 18, 17, 16?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, James, would you like to go second today?
Okay.
Okay. Evan, do you want to go third today?
Why are we doing like?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Andy, why are we doing like 2019, like 20 and then 19 and then 18? Can't we just follow the order and do like 6, 7, 8?
Yeah, like this class we do like 1, 2, 6, and then the next class we start at 7.
Yeah, maybe like we do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this time, then 6, 7, 8, 9.
Well, it is Andy's decision. After all, he is the teacher.
Well, yeah, but like I think this is like less complicated.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea too. Sure. We'll use that order then. Okay. So, Jerry W., would you like to go today? Would you like to go third today? I mean fourth? Jerry. Would you like to go today?
No thanks.
Okay.
Andy, I have a question. How are we supposed to do like a speech using those those quotes?
You're supposed to kind of interpret the quote and talk about it. So, for example, if your speech is basically like the failure one, you can talk about failure and success. So, you can strip these quotes to their bare bones. So, failure and success, this one can be, and this one is like, be like, learning from mistakes, I guess. So, so Jerry don't want to go. Heidi, would you like to go fourth today?
My mom's making me.
Okay, sure. And okay, Luke, would you like to go fifth today? Okay, terrific. And Kelly, would you like to be? I'm not sure if Kelly's here. Yes, Kelly. Do you want to go last today?
Sure.
Okay, sure. So next time we'll start off with Sarah, which is number 8. And then we'll go to Sarah, then Jeremy, then Tyler next week.
Andy,
Yes?
do we only have class for 2 months?
We have class until the 10th class. This time is the 7th class.
Oh, I thought we only got 8 classes.
Oh, we have 10, okay. We're running out of time, so if you have questions, you can post them in chat and we'll respond to your chat. But anyways, because this is in a order which is inflexible, I'll let you guys pick your topics regardless of order. So if you guys just want to kind of like just yell out your topics.
I want number 2.
Okay.
No, I want to be number 2. I want to be number 2.
I want
Number 3.
I want
I
number
do
2.
not understand any of these topics.
I want number 2.
Okay, so
3.
Luke got 2.
I want 2.
So a lot of
want
people want 2.
3. I mean 3.
Can I have 2?
3.
I really don't want to do any of those quotes.
Which topics are taken?
So
I don't think anyone wants to do the quotes, actually.
exactly, and that's why we want to learn them. Because if
I'm
the
doing number
topic
2.
happens to be a quote, then you're going to be really screwed. Okay, so
I'm
Evan
doing
wants
number
to go
3.
three.
Number
I
3.
want to do number 2.
I
Okay.
want number
Number 3.
3.
I want number 2.
Okay,
I already
Evan.
called it number 3.
I called number 2.
Number 3, expressions.
I want to do
Expression.
2.
Can everyone
Two.
please be quiet for a few minutes?
Yes. Once you say it out loud once, you should mute your mic because it's kind of getting a tad bit loud and yes. And type in chat if you want. Okay, Evan.
Number 2.
2 is already taken by Luke. ID wants to go on to the third topic. Third is also taken by Ethan L. Kelly wants the fourth topic, worldview. Sure.
I'll do number 1 then.
Well,
Number
then
1.
I'm screwed.
Okay, so who wanted number 1 again?
I'll do number 1, Evan.
Okay, Evan. Yeah, I guess next time we'll still go down the list because this is a bit chaotic. So the last two left. So ID, which quotation would you like?
I don't understand either of these.
Okay, so I guess I'll just give you just a random one.
Same.
Okay. I guess I'll just give you random ones. Okay, I'll give I the ones about goals, and I'll give James the one about learning from mistakes. Okay, so these are our
Andy, can I have like a definition of like what it means by like schools are inflexible?
It means that schools are too rigid.
Can't be
they don't allow
unchanged.
children to explore.
Like they can't explore around the school?
No, like they can't explore their passion.
Can't do what they want. The teacher
Oh, okay.
than what they do.
Yes. Okay. So the next class will be I'll ask Sarah, then Jeremy, then Tyler, Aurora, Lucas, and so on and so forth. Okay, so enough dilly-dallying. I'll start the timer for everybody's preparation, and you guys can all start preparing in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Can you turn the chat on?
Wait, Andy, I forgot what was my topic again?
So your topic is schools are inflexible. And in fact, also paste them in the chat. There you go.
I can't remember the quote.
I pasted the topic list in chat, so I guess I'll just go here. So yeah, you can write down the quote. The timer time is showed up here on the tab, by the way.
Andy, I forgot what my topic was again. Andy.
So I pasted it in chat. James, you can see learning from mistakes quote, and this is the quote you have.
Okay, thank you.
Can you open the timer tab? Okay, thank you.
So Evan, the time is showed like on the tab page, but it might seem a little bit small. So yeah, I'll stick to there. Hopefully people have written their topics down. So that is preparation. That's our time for preparation.
Okay.
So yes, our first speaker for today will be Ethan L. with expression. So, if you would like to turn on your video, which I see you have, you can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Once there was a person named Jimmy, and Jimmy never told anyone how he felt. He sometimes felt sad, and he never told anyone, so he was like sad for the whole day. And people didn't know, so they couldn't help him. And it wasn't a good thing. And Jimmy was almost like most of the time, like the school year, Jimmy was sad for like most of the school year. And no one ever knew, so they couldn't help him. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ethan. Today, I will be talking about expressions. Expressions are important because if you don't speak up, people won't know how you feel. If you're feeling sad, they would and they don't know, they might make you more sad, like make fun of you or something. And it's also important for them to hear what you think, because if you don't speak up, and then you might end up with something that you don't want. So the problem is that people don't speak up these days, and everyone else doesn't know how they feel or what's going on in their head, because well, they can't read their head, and it's just person might feel depressed and sad all the time. So they don't express their emotions. They don't, and the other people don't know if what you're feeling right now. If you're feeling happy, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling excited, and you're on your face, you just have a normal face, so people don't really know what's going on. The solution to this is to speak out and talk more and express your emotions or your ideas so that people know what you're feeling, and so that they won't make fun of you or they won't joke around on you, and that might not make you feel sad anymore. So if you don't want to feel sad, you can tell them, that the person, that, hey, I'm feeling sad. Can you not make fun of me? And yeah, so I imagine a world where everyone's voices are heard and that everyone's feelings are important and that nobody gets bullied around in school. So thank you for listening.
All right, terrific work. So, starting us off with what we've learned today. Today in the feedback, I'll be going over rhetorical questions. I'll be going over audience interaction of stories and stuff like that. So examples, I'll be going over theoretical examples, and I'll also be going over audience control. So, starting us off with kind of the stories, I really think that you did very well with this aspect in your speech. So I really like that little prominent example at the start of the speech you made. So that was a wonderful example, kept its prominence throughout the speech. So I really like that example. And just like another for a side note, really like that you used a problem solution format. Terrific work on the organization. So, starting us off with rhetorical questions. So, one thing that I think that you could have done was, like, right after that story at the start, you could have asked us, like, why doesn't he speak out? Why do people in society fear speaking themselves or fear expression? So that could have been added. For audience control, I liked it because you're using the format. You gave us like a call to action at the end, which is basically what audience control is. However, I think you could rephrase the kind of problem as more of, if you are the type of person to not speak out, then speak out, something like that. But otherwise, terrific work on theoretical examples and impact overall. So yeah, terrific work on those. Keep up the outstanding work, and yeah, terrific speech overall. So our next speaker for today, after Ethan, will be James with the learning from mistakes quote, the following one from yes. Okay, So James, turn on your camera and you can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Hello, panel. One day I had a dog, and I ended up giving that dog away. Why? It's because I didn't take care of him. When I had time, I didn't clean up his poop or something. So, and one day we ended up putting him in the backyard, giving him a dog house, and then put his water in the dog house and food in his blankie and stuff, because we didn't have time to help him and stuff like that. And whenever we could have time to help him or go with him, we didn't. And now I will tell you something that's very important. Hello, panel. Today my topic is learning from mistakes. Earlier, I told you about my old dog. Today, I got my new dog, and now when I have free time, I take care of him. I get his poop and stuff like that, and I play with him. So we didn't end up giving him away or stuff like that. That's the same thing to my cats. I didn't end up giving my cats away. So, learning from mistakes, you might ask, how? Dude, seriously, learning from mistakes is possible. One mistake is enough. Why do you want to do it again or something like that? That's not true. Like the dog story I told you earlier, I ended up giving away my dog, but I didn't end up giving my new dog away, right? That's from learning from mistakes. And learning from mistakes, I'll tell you how you learn from mistakes. So the first time you have the mistake, right? You do the things that you aren't supposed to do. And then the next time you do it, you know what you do. Because someone or yourself told yourself that what you did wrong and what you didn't do wrong. So that is how you learn from mistakes. And let me tell you another story. One day, Bob, this kid, was at school, and he was a kid that didn't like to do homework and things. So when he went to college, he didn't do anything. He didn't pass college. Because why? Because he never learned. Now he went over college and high school, and even did grade kindergarten and grade 1 math. And then after, he became a very rich kid. And thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Okay, so starting off what you did really well with, again, I think that the story was actually quite nice. It was quite personal, both with, I think it was Bob and your pet dog. So both were very nice examples, and they both showed their prominence very well. So very good with that. So one thing I think that you could do better with would be with impact. So kind of say why learning from mistakes will impact us, maybe not just Bob. So for example, you can say that just like Bob, you too can learn from your mistakes and go from being one of the worst to one of the best. So that can be one part of impact that you can add. So just kind of notice that on impact. For audience control, try to add kind of, if you're this type of person, if you like to give up on mistakes, or if you think mistakes are too bad for you to kind of control, do this, do that. So that's kind of more audience control. Theoretical examples were nice, and I think that you did very well with stories and theoretical example. Both were very intriguing, and your okay. So and also for spoken interaction, I would like to see a bit more rhetorical questions. But overall, though, terrific work on your theoretical examples and examples. But yeah, overall terrific work. Just kind of note those two off, and keep up the good work. So yeah, very wonderful, very well done.
Andy,
Yes.
for my speech, which is schools are inflexible, doesn't mean kids are allowed to roam around in the school and do what they like, or kids aren't allowed.
You can kind of interpret it as anything. So you can interpret it as like whichever suits your speech better, basically. That's all about speech topics. So if you
Wait,
like
what?
it, so if you want it to be not, then it can be not. But if you want it to be yes, then it can be yes. But anyways, you can start.
Okay.
Yes. You can turn on your camera. You can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Every kid should be following exactly what the teacher says, because if they don't, they would probably just go around doing whatever they want while teachers are trying to stop and like regroup a herd of bison. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Evan, and my topic today is schools are inflexible. Why should schools be inflexible? Well, first off, if schools are inflexible, then let's face it, no one will be following rules or doing what the teachers are saying to them. Teachers also won't have a hard time teaching. Pretend you are a teacher and you are having your students in a math class. Then if the school wasn't inflexible, then some of the kids would be doing art, science, or social, and the teacher would probably get a headache telling them to stop. I think you would too. Schools should also be inflexible because every single kid would be disciplined and they would know how to follow directions more easily. The kids will also be able to find out which topic they like more easily, like which subject. Pretend if each subject is organized, like pretend if you're in language arts and you do just language arts, you don't do anything else, then they'll know if they like it or not. But if the school wasn't inflexible, then some kids would be like drawing or like solving Rubik's cubes while the teacher is like talking about LA, and like the students wouldn't even be listening. And also more students wouldn't talk as much because maybe the school made a rule like don't talk or go to the washrooms during class time. And that also goes on to the discipline rule. They will become more disciplined at staying quiet and knowing to talk when they can or knowing to talk when they can't. Another reason why schools are inflexible is because if they were, then kids would actually like pretend you're in the hallways. There's a rule saying like you have to be in the straight line, because usually inside schools, like kids would be in the hallways. There would be kids like everywhere, and you wouldn't even be able to walk. But if kids were walking in an organized line, then probably that way you could get by easier. This is why schools are inflexible, and if they aren't, then let me tell you, the school is probably gonna be total bananas, and students would probably like not even know what the meaning of discipline even meant. Thank you.
Alrighty, so terrific work on this topic. So just kind of a side note, usually inflexible kind of means not the rules, but for their learning, right? So inflexible means that like they're teaching the same old math, and if a person is far beyond what they're teaching, they won't accommodate, and if somebody's still confused, they won't accommodate. But for your interpretation, I think that you actually did very well. So there were lots of theoretical examples. I especially like the one about imagine if you were a teacher, because that kind of puts it in more of a situational path. So terrific theoretical example. So I think that you especially did well in that. You had very nice stories inside your speeches. Very good. So try to add perhaps a little bit more rhetorical questions. I think you had a few, but a few more prominent ones would be better. Like emphasize your questions, and it would stand out a little bit more. But otherwise, though, I think that your speech was very good. You had nice audience control at the end. Overall, terrific speech. So just keep in mind the feedback, and it would be even better. But overall, though, outstanding speech, excellent work, and keep up the outstanding job. Okay, so our next speaker for today, after Evan, will be Heidi with goals, the quote about goals. Okay.
I still can't remember the quote.
Okay, so just talk about goals and stuff. Okay, so when I click start, ID, you can start speaking in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
One time, there was a boy in school. His friends all looked up to him because he never did he never failed. He never did anything wrong. But he missed the true meaning of what failure is. It's not something bad. It's actually something where you can learn. He ignored every time someone said, failure will soon lead to success. And nobody ever tried again to tell him. However, one day he had made a mistake. His friends stopped listening to him. And then he tried again. And this time he did it. He got a few more friends back and got a few new friends. And he realized the true meaning of failure. Failure is something where you can learn. Failure will soon lead to success. If you never fail, you will never see the true meaning of failure. Hello, my name is Heidi, and my topic is a quote that I can't quite remember, but it's about goals. Failure is the true meaning of goals. It's how you get better and better at things. Like that one guy at the story, which by the way is fake. If you fail, you know what you did wrong. So you try harder and harder until you get it right. And everyone will look up to you because you improve so much. If a person never fails in life, they will never learn, like that boy in my story. They will gain much more friends but they won't be real friends. They will just be there for work, for them to do their work, and to not do anything. And if that ever happens, you should never trust them. And also, if you ever never fail, then what will happen to your life? So set a goal. Learn and try till you get it right. And soon, you will see the true meaning of failure. Failure will soon lead to success. So what have you learned? It's that if you fail, you know what you did wrong. So you try harder and harder till you get it right. And if a person never fails in life, they'll never learn. And set a goal, learn and try until you get it right. Thank you.
Alrighty, so terrific speech, ID. So starting off with your let's start off with examples first. I think that you had a very good starting example with the person who never realized that mistakes can lead to success. I think that was very effective. However, so next time you like during these classes, it's okay to say that your examples are fake and stuff, but during a real tournament, just like don't say it. But I think that's just implied. So yeah. But anyways, going on to audience control, I feel like that you could have added perhaps if you are a person who doesn't think that failure leads to success, you should start believing it or something like that. So that could have been a little bit improved on. For impact, I think that you could have said something about people's personal life. If perhaps your family kept on believing that failure led to success, perhaps the family could grow as a whole, something like that. For theoretical examples, though, I think that you did excellent, like with the situational example that was related to that example about the person who never believed that failure led to success. So good theoretical example. And last of all, with rhetorical questions, I think you asked some nice theoretical questions at the start and during your speech. So very good work on that. So overall, terrific work, and keep up the outstanding job. Okay, our next speech for today will be by, so after ID, we'll have Luke with should school teach physical education? And Luke, you can turn on your camera and you can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
So imagine this: a school without PE and a school with PE. What school do you think the students want to be in? Well, if you were a student, which school would you want to go to? Well, I would probably go to the one with PE because I could have more fun, there's a break, and it's kind of the preferred recess. So, hello, my name is Luke, and today my topic is PE mandatory in school? Well, to me, I think it is because of 3 points. And I'm going to talk about those 3 points right now. So the first is a break. PE is pretty much a break. You go downstairs from your class and then you go into gym and just start running everywhere. If you don't have any break though, students could be exhausted, just sitting in a chair for 6 hours, just learning the entire day. Let's say there's 2 people, person A and person B. Person A works all day, sits in his chair, writes and looks at his computer, writes even more, and learns all day. But person B has recess and PE, so he has a break, a 1 hour break. So who will do better? Well, it all depends. most of the time you would probably think that person A would probably do better. But sometimes it will probably be person B, because after person B has a break, he'll still study. And he's not exhausted of just studying all day and won't be tired, wouldn't be like hating homework. And it might just lead to maybe person B doing better. So even though person A works all day, probably is exhausted, and at the end of the day, probably is not going to do that well in the test. But will do good in the test if it has a break. And my second point is more fun. So if there's less fun in school, then that's not good, because most people just want to go to school either because they can learn something or they could play with their friends. But if you don't have PE and recess, you don't really have that much time to play with friends except talking in class. And I feel like that's not enough. So kids probably wouldn't want to go to school, which nobody wants to, which that's not good, because if kids don't want to go to school, parents will have to force them. And then when they have to force them, students could hate school even more, and that's not good. Because if you think about it, if nobody wants to go to school, then how are they going to learn anything? Then if they don't learn anything, they're probably going to get bad jobs, no grades, and probably get even more sadder. So my third and final point is fitness. PE is gym. And in the gym, you could get more fit instead of just sitting in the chair for 6 hours writing homework. And when you have gym, you're also more fit. And when you're more fit, you're probably going to be more healthier, more athletic, and you're probably going to have a boost of energy. Let's say there's a kid called Jeffrey. Let's say Jeffrey doesn't have any PE in his school for some reason. And then when he gets back home, he doesn't have any time to exercise or walk his dog or go anywhere. So he has no exercise, which means he's probably not as healthy as he would if he exercised. So we need exercise every once in a while. And if you have PE like every 2 days, that's really good. So that is my speech, and thank you for listening to my speech.
All right, so one thing that I really liked about your speech today was the amazing theoretical examples. So I think they especially did very well with kind of making it situational with, for example, if you are a student, then what, which one will you do? So very excellent theoretical examples today, Luke. I think you grasped that concept very well. I also really liked your rhetorical questions that are kind of embedded in the theoretical examples. So I really love those questions. They were on point, very good type of question with kind of pairing them up and using them as very good emphasis. So very good job with those, Luke. So for impact, I think this is one thing that you can kind of do even better. You can apply not only to students, which I think you did very well, but also to everybody else. If we have better educated children, then our society, like how will it affect your family? Perhaps one of them will find the cure to cancer or something like that. But very good work on impact for school children. And last of all, with your audience control, I think that you had a very good kind of what would happen if they did and did not. So very good audience control. If like you're a person who likes PE, it would be very relating to your speech. So overall, terrific work, Luke, and keep up the outstanding work. Excellent speech. Okay. our last speaker for today is Kelly with Worldview. So Kelly, if you would like to turn on your camera, you can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Have you ever thought about what other people think about you? Hello, my name is Kelly and I will be talking about worldview first. First, my quote is worldview, the most dangerous worldview is the worldview of who have not viewed the world. What is worldview? Everyone's view of the world has the main characteristic of constant change. Various information sources such as parenting, friendship, internet, media, education, religion, etc. influence this framework. For Christians, effective worldview education requires access to knowledge, what the worldview is, what the worldview is, and development evaluation skills based on biblical and empirical evidence. Belief-based logical reasoning use of is included. However, knowledge of the brain alone is insufficient unless it is dominant factor affecting decision making and behavior in your life. The worldview you think you have is not the way you really see the world. Basically, what worldview is what the world thinks of something. How does worldview affect us? Personally, how worldview affects me is that I always think about what other people think, even though I don't think that, because no one wants people to think about them and talk about them, and it's a bad thing. But you can't rely on worldview and think about yourself, or you will not be happy with what you're doing and will usually be in a more negative mood. There are lots of people who don't care about what other people think of them, which is awesome, but it's super hard to do. Personally, I think worldview is very important, and that is my speech about worldview. Thank you.
Okay, so terrific work. For the people who want to leave, just stay here for a little bit longer. So Kelly, really good speech. I think that you did especially well with kind of the more of the logical side of arguments of this thing. So, very good work on that. So here, since we're more of a logical speech today, you did very good with theoretical examples. You played some very good thought experiments, which are very good. So basically, one thing that I would like you to improve on was impact, right? So how will it impact my family or the audience's family for people's worldview? So you can kind of go in deeper with that. But otherwise, I really liked your speech. You had very wonderful logical speaking tone, very good theoretical examples, and overall a outstanding speech. So yeah, keep up the wonderful work. So thank you guys for coming today. Next week we're going to be talking about storytelling. Thank you for coming, and I guess I'll see you next week. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Why do we go overtime every day?
Okay.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.